There are days when getting out of bed feels heavier than usual. Days when your mind feels tired, your confidence feels distant, and that inner spark you rely on just isn't there. You may still have responsibilities, goals, and people counting on you, but motivation feels completely silent. And in those moments, you start questioning yourself. What's wrong with me? Why can't I feel driven like before? If you've ever felt this way, you're not weak, you're human. Today, we're talking about why learning to show up even when motivation is silent is one of the most powerful decisions you can make for emotional healing, inner peace, and long-term growth. There is a quiet pain in waiting to feel motivated before taking action. Many people believe they must feel energized, confident, or inspired before they begin, and when that feeling doesn't arrive, they assume something is wrong with them. This creates a loop of delay and self-doubt. The deeper insight is that motivation is not a reliable signal of readiness. It's often shaped after movement begins. When you pause everything until you feel ready, you unintentionally teach your mind that discomfort has control. Guidance starts with a gentle shift. Stop asking yourself how motivated you feel and start asking what one respectful step looks like today. It might be opening the document, taking a short walk, or simply staying present instead of withdrawing. Healing happens when you show up without demanding intensity from yourself. Small, steady actions rebuild self-trust, reduce emotional noise, and remind you that progress does not require perfect conditions, only willingness. At work, in personal growth, and in emotional recovery, one of the most damaging myths is that strong people are always driven. They aren't. The pain comes from comparing your quiet days to someone else's highlight moments. The insight is this: consistency carries you forward when emotion cannot. Discipline is not about pushing harder, it's about staying engaged without self-abandonment. Guidance here is practical: lower the volume, not the value, of what you do. You don't need to perform at full capacity every day to remain committed. Healing occurs when effort becomes sustainable instead of exhausting, and when you allow steady presence to replace pressure, stress begins to soften and inner balance returns. Motivation often goes silent during periods of emotional overload. Stress accumulates quietly through unmet expectations, ongoing responsibilities, and moments where you feel unseen or misunderstood. The pain shows up as mental fatigue, procrastination, or a sense of emotional numbness. The insight is recognizing that silence does not mean failure. It often means your system is overloaded and asking for simplicity. Guidance begins by narrowing your focus. Instead of trying to solve everything at once, return to what is immediately within reach. One task, one decision, one calm breath. Healing unfolds when you stop demanding clarity from a tired mind and allow small actions to restore emotional rhythm. Over time, steadiness replaces urgency, and peace returns not through force, but through patience. Many people confuse showing up with forcing themselves beyond their limits. This belief creates resentment toward effort and distance from inner peace. The pain comes from pushing too hard on days when emotional or mental energy is already low. The insight is understanding that discipline is not self-punishment, it is self-respect expressed through consistency. Guidance means learning to move forward without aggression. You honor your values while respecting your capacity. Showing up might look quieter, doing less, but doing it with intention. Healing happens when effort becomes balanced rather than extreme, and when you realize that sustainable growth is built by listening to yourself, not overriding yourself. In relationships, personal boundaries, and even in how you treat yourself, motivation can fade after disappointment or emotional strain. You may feel tired of explaining, tired of hoping, or tired of giving more than you receive. The pain is subtle but heavy. It shows up as withdrawal, confusion, or the urge to stop trying altogether. The insight is that showing up does not mean overextending yourself or chasing reassurance. It means staying aligned with your values even when emotions fluctuate. Guidance here is learning the difference between effort and self-sacrifice. You can remain consistent without abandoning your dignity. Healing grows when you choose calm clarity over reaction, and when your actions reflect self-respect rather than emotional urgency. Growth rarely announces itself with excitement or visible rewards. Most progress happens in ordinary moments, quiet routines, repeated choices, and days that feel unremarkable. The pain comes from believing that if growth feels boring or slow, it must not be working. The insight is realizing that discipline habits are designed to create stability, not constant excitement. Guidance means committing to small actions that support emotional healing and stress relief, even when they don't feel impactful in the moment. Showing up to routine builds structure, and structure builds peace. Healing takes place when you trust repetition over intensity, and when you allow consistency to quietly shape a stronger, more grounded version of yourself. When motivation is silent, the way you speak to yourself becomes especially important. The pain often comes from an inner voice that turns critical during low-energy moments, questioning your discipline, commitment, or worth. This self-judgment doesn't create strength, it deepens exhaustion. The insight is recognizing that resilience grows in an environment of patience, not pressure. Guidance begins with changing the tone of your inner dialogue. Instead of criticizing yourself for feeling low, acknowledge the effort it takes to remain present. Gentle encouragement keeps you engaged without adding emotional weight. Healing occurs when your mind becomes a place of support, allowing stress to ease and emotional balance to return naturally. Over time, showing up consistently shapes how you see yourself. Each small act of follow-through reinforces an identity rooted in reliability rather than emotion. The pain of inconsistency fades as trust in yourself strengthens. The insight here is that discipline is not about controlling every feeling, it's about aligning your actions with your values. Guidance means letting character lead when motivation does not. You continue moving forward not because it feels easy, but because it reflects who you are becoming. Healing is found in this quiet confidence, where effort no longer depends on mood and where inner peace grows through steady, intentional action. If you remember one thing today, let it be this: show up even when motivation is silent, because consistency is what carries you through uncertainty. When motivation fades, your values remain, and they are enough to guide you forward. If this message resonated with you, share your thoughts below. How are you showing up for yourself today? Stay patient with your journey. Quiet effort builds powerful change.